Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday. I'm your host, Lauren Meisner, the founder of the youth digital media brand Centennial World. Welcome back to Mini Scroll, everyone. Happy Thursday. We almost made it through the week. I'm still on that minimal heat grind with my hair because I bleach it so much, and I think today you can really tell. The hair, she's au naturel today. All right, let's just get into the stories for today. So I actually kind of have an industry heavy episode, which is interesting because I know I say this every time, but so many of you guys work in social, work in marketing, and I know you appreciate these updates. So I wanted to bring something kind of relevant to you guys. Okay, so the first thing that I need to talk about is that viral ad for Jaguar cars. So luxury car company Jaguar is going viral after releasing a new ad along with what seems like an entire rebrand. The ad shows a diverse group of people in bright colors against colorful backgrounds. Throughout the ad, there are phrases like create exuberant, live vivid, delete ordinary, and copy nothing written over all of the visuals. So if you guys are on LinkedIn or TikTok, you've probably seen at least some discussion about this ad. It is literally going everywhere, and it seems to have gone viral because it just feels so off-brand. It just seems like it's such a far stray from Jaguar's previously established brand identity. And it's an obvious attempt to shake things up, to become more relevant, to step into a new era, but still it feels like such a far stray that it was kind of shocking to people, I think. That being said, it's not really going over very well. I haven't seen a lot of positive commentary, and I don't know if those are just my algorithms, so definitely let me know if you guys have seen anything that's been relatively positive about it. But for the most part, I've seen two main criticisms. The first is that it just doesn't make sense for a heritage brand like Jaguar to have this whole rebrand to try and attract a younger audience base or a younger consumer base, because that's not really what the car and their brand identity is about, right? But to that, I guess I say, what's the point of a rebrand then, right? Why would rebrands as a concept exist if you could never kind of change what you've always been to appeal to a different demographic? That's the point of a rebrand. So I actually don't necessarily agree with that criticism. And I definitely don't agree with the second criticism, which is that the ad is too quote unquote woke. That is what tons of people are saying about this ad. And I think that's just a ridiculous criticism. So Jaguar has gone on to defend the campaign on X, asking viewers for their patience as further updates will be coming soon, apparently December 2nd or early December. I've also seen criticism. People are just hating on this ad. Just that's actually the gist of this story. But I've also seen criticism around this whole story about when brands try and drip feed things that are coming soon. And the same thing goes for influencers, right? We hear people talk about this all the time. It's your audience actually doesn't care when you're I have such an exciting project coming up, you guys. At the end of the day, it's actually usually not that exciting for the audience. And I've seen a lot of marketers say the same thing about Jaguar trying to drip feed this coming soon, all will be revealed in December, that kind of vibe. But with that being said, because of the virality of this ad, I'm going to be waiting for December. I want to know what the rebrand is now because it's gone so viral. And on that note, obviously, a lot of people have been saying that the ad has served its purpose, because whether you love it or you hate it, and it seems like a lot of people hate it, the level of virality and discourse around the rebrand is successful in and of itself, right? So Jack Appleby, who is the creator of the very popular newsletter Future Social, made a similar point on his LinkedIn. He wrote, quote, "I don't get this Jaguar ad, but it's already more viral than most viral plays. And there is an echelon of virality where so many people see the ad that it inevitably boosts sales. And hey, I think polarizing an audience is generally a good thing. Give people reason to proudly be with your brand, yeah? That's clearly what Jaguar is trying to do, a massive shakeup, and they need it. They've been hurting." So it'll be interesting to see what happens in December. I can't believe that I'm going to be tracking the rebrand of a car company. That just feels so off-brand for me. To do such a massive rebrand that is so different from what they traditionally were, they're going to have to do something so majorly different. way beyond just like bright colors and cool progressive slogans and an ad filled with like youthful, creative looking people. They're going to have to do a lot more to establish like this complete rebrand. Otherwise, this is going to feel so cheap. But if you guys are marketers and you have an opinion on this ad, or, if you've seen discourse on this ad, I would love to know in the comments, like what you think of it, what you've been seeing about it. I literally cannot escape the discourse around this ad. And I think it's so interesting. I mean, I guess it's such a rebrand, but I'm also like, this ad is also just kind of nothing. I don't know. I think that it's really been blown out of proportion, but here I am talking about it on the podcast, so I guess I'm adding to that. All right, the next story that I have for you guys is I wanted to talk about the new study that came out of Pew Research that found that the majority of news influencers are men, and that is super relevant to me, even though I don't typically cover hard news. I would say that I cover a subset of news. It might not be the most important news, but I still cover news. So Gen Z, as we know, are choosing to get their news online. And while this is nothing new, little attention has been paid to who is delivering these stories and their biases. According to new data by the Pew Research Center, online news influencers are predominantly men. The analysts reviewed a sample of 500 popular news influencers and examined the content they produced after reviewing over 28,000 different social media accounts. Through this examination, the center found that 1 in 5 Americans, with 37% of adults over 30, regularly get their news from influencers on social media. So obviously this is a US-centered study. I would be interested to see if it differs from, I live in Australia, but I'm Canadian, like if that would be any different. I don't really think so. I think the US is probably fairly representative of, a larger sample here. Quote, among Americans who get news from influencers on social media, most, 65%, say news influencers have helped them better understand current events and civic issues, the report reads. Now, the flip side of that is, like I mentioned, these news influencers don't necessarily reflect gender diversity for all of their audiences. The majority, 62%, are men, with a slightly larger share identifying as conservative, 27%, compared to liberal, 21%. Interestingly, TikTok stands out with a smaller gender gap and more balanced political representation. It's also the only platform where left-leaning creators outnumber their right-wing counterparts, 28% versus 25%. So Pew doesn't go into detail about why men are overrepresented among news influencers, but Taylor Lorenz discusses a number of factors that she thinks might, have led to that reason in her Substack User Mag. She writes, quote, social media platforms have long boosted men's voices over women's. The refusal to tamp down on misogynistic hate and harassment or provide users with tools to protect themselves has resulted in the silencing of women's voices across the internet. This dynamic is especially pronounced on platforms like YouTube and Twitter. And I can see that. I can definitely see that. I mean, I will talk about something that is like slightly outside of the realm of what I typically cover on this podcast, and I will get a lot of feedback about it, and it is usually not presented very nicely. So I can imagine if you are covering hard news where there are just so many heated opinions and just issues on the table, I can imagine that presenting that type of content consistently would be difficult enough. Like you would the feedback that you would be getting would be challenging enough. And as a woman, I imagine it would be like that 10 times, There are just a host of things that women deal with. I mean, we all know this, that women deal with online that men don't have to deal with. When we did the Let the Girls Game series earlier this year, a lot of the comments that we got were from young men that, like gaming, I guess, and would watch these videos or listen to these episodes, and they would just leave the most disgusting comments on those videos, and we've deleted a ton of them because they were just so horrific. Tons that were sexualizing us, like talking about what we looked like, saying like the most graphic, horrific things, like just just like really horrible things. And it doesn't need to be that extreme for it to feel like too much and for someone to just decide to leave the internet. So I think it makes total sense that women, like as Taylor Lorenz said, like the platforms haven't done enough for moderation in general, like full stop, but especially because there is so much more online harassment and hate directed towards women. And we know that as a fact, as we did explore in the Let the Girls Game episodes with different like experts, researchers, PhD candidates, like people that are like in the weeds and doing the work in online safety. It makes total sense why women would not want to put themselves out there online and share opinions or, you know, talk about topics that are even slightly divisive or controversial. Okay, so the last story that I have for you guys is that Coachella has dropped the lineup for 2025, and the headliners are Lady Gaga, Green Day, Post Malone, and Travis Scott. So quickly, Travis Scott, his name doesn't have like a date attached to it. However, according to Billboard, a press release from Travis Scott's team said that he will perform on the main stage on Saturday night. Out of the headliners, this will be Lady Gaga's second time headlining Coachella, where Post Malone has performed at the festival but never headlined. Green Day has never performed at the festival. Besides the headliners, other popular acts include Megan Thee Stallion, Charli XCX, Tyla, FKA Twigs, Clairo, and Blackpink members Jennie and Lisa. The lineup has drawn mixed reactions. Some people are saying that the festival has like fallen off because some of these acts feel irrelevant, while others feel like it's really pulling on that nostalgia. I mean, especially with Green Day, I am like a 2000s rock girly. Like that is mostly what I listen to is like Linkin Park, Blink-182. If you guys used to listen to the podcast when it was Jordy and I, like we would always talk about that. She'd be like, you listen to like the craziest music, like compared to, you know, like what it seems like I would listen to, but I just listen to like all types of music. But new metal era, like that, like 2000s, early 2000s, like that is like my jam. So, you know, Green Day performing is so iconic to me. And I'm like, they are in my Spotify. I think Post Malone makes total sense. He just had that, did he just have that country album drop? I think he did. Sean, my husband, was listening to it and he was like, I love this album. I think that was his latest album and I think it just came out. But I think it sounds like a really sick lineup. And I mean, Coachella is always iconic, even if the festival has kind of fallen off. And we've discussed it on and off over the years, if it's like irrelevant, if it really makes sense for influencers to go, but honestly, it has stayed the course. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think of the headliners. I've never been to Coachella, and I feel like it's got to be one of those bucket list things, but I would want to do it really well. So I don't think, coming from Australia, I could afford to do it well for a very long time. Anyways, guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening to Mini Scroll. I love you guys. Please rate, review, and subscribe. It helps me so much. It helps me grow. Please star rate us on Spotify. We are trying to get those reviews up. We are almost at 400 reviews on Spotify. You just have to click the little star. But if you listen on Apple, please leave us a review on Apple or a comment on YouTube or wherever you listen to us. We so appreciate it. I love you guys. And there will be a deep dive tomorrow, and then I will talk to you on Monday. Okay, bye.